Hey, what's up guys? Fish Tank Mike here. Today we're setting up another planted aquarium down here, but it's not going to be a totally new one. It's actually going to be this tank right here, but we're not going to be doing what we were supposed to be doing in this tank. We're going to completely redo it. Let me explain. So, I mean, where do I really begin here? A lot of things. One, the dwarf baby tears, the main carpet plant that we had down here, didn't really work out for me, okay? You can see a few patches of it here where it was successful in the dry start method, but pretty much everywhere else, it totally died off. You can tell that the hair grass that we have in here is still looking good. Pretty much all of them are doing really well, except for one little piece back here. I've been battling with the baby tears for the last 2 weeks, guys. I've been buying replacement tissue cultures and redoing the planting, but nothing seems to work. I don't know. I'm just, I'm at a loss. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I don't know if it's me, if it's the tissue cultures. It's probably me. Let's be real. But the other thing too is that the more and more I come down and look at this tank every day, the more and more I just don't really like it. I mean, I think it was a pretty cool concept, maybe, but I don't know. The layout that I picked, I'm not happy with it, and I think we're just gonna pull this out and we're gonna do kind of like a George Farmer style tank, if you will. Something that's more of a centerpiece tank, if you will. You'll see what we come up with here later in the video, but also, you know, I wanna do something that's not so focused on the small scale. Most of my tanks that I have right now, you know, I'm really limited with the types of fish that I can put in because I pick such a small scale of a tank. I want to build a tank that's kind of more of a stereotypical one, if you will, but most importantly, one that allows me to diversify the fish that we put in. I want to be able to put in a little bit larger fish in it and not have to worry about throwing off the scale of things. So let's get started, guys. I'm going to remove all of the structures that we have in here. Remember, we fixed all of these rocks together, so it should be pretty easy to just pull them out. I'm going to set these aside. Maybe down the road we'll come back to these and incorporate them into some other kind of scape at some point. I don't know. Definitely not going to be getting rid of these structures by any means. Now that that's done, I'm going to pick out, you know, the dead baby tears. I'm going to leave some of the pieces that are still kind of intact because, hey, maybe they'll fit into the scape at some point. And then I'm definitely going to be moving the dwarf hair grass. We're going to incorporate that into this new scape. So I'm just going to take it out of place here now because I'm going to be next moving the substrate around and kind of creating a central mound in the aquarium. Again, we want to create something kind of like a centerpiece tank where there's one kind of large mound where we have a bunch of plants and essentially create a simple nature style aquarium. I've shifted the substrate over, guys. I have a lot of it pushed here to the front just to make room so I could get in here and move the filler bags that we have here kind of together and in the middle. Remember, these bags are just filled up with lava rocks to help provide a little bit of lift in the tank, so they're squeezed together now. And what we're going to do is, because we're going to have so many red plants in here, it's going to be very much a high-tech tank. I want to add a little bit of iron. Just going to pour a bunch of this in here, try to do this one-handed. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll spread this stuff out. Just kind of dump that mostly in the back where a lot of the red stems are going to be. And we're just going to go ahead and cover it up. Here's our big mound, guys. This is our starting point, okay? And within this substrate, there's a lot of these smaller lava rocks. That's okay. We're just gonna kind of mash it all together, and it's actually probably gonna help us out when it comes to keeping the wood that we're about to put in this aquarium down and in place and not floating up to the top once we fill it. So down here by my old pile of rocks that were in the tank, we have the spider wood that we're going to be using to create our very natural looking aquarium. So I'm just going to kind of go back and forth between moving one piece in, then moving another piece, and getting a feel for how I want the scape to overall look. Eventually, like 80%, if not 90% of this wood will be completely hidden by plant growth, so it's not really important as to exactly how this looks. We just want to make sure that we have some branches that are sticking up out of the top and then down along the outer edges of the mound that we hopefully will see even as the scape develops and the plants grow. As I'm still moving around these pieces of wood, I'm also going to grab some of the main stones that we're going to have in the scape, which is going to be this Sirius stone. Same thing goes with the rock. I'm just kind of doing like a jigsaw puzzle here. I'm playing Tetris with rocks and wood until I'm satisfied with the overall look of what I have going on. Now, before we continue, I'm going to go ahead and get the shot back out, and I'm going to suck up as much of this substrate that ended up in front of the rocks as possible. And we're doing that because we're eventually going to add some sand to the front of the scape. To really make this a true island style scape, we need to have a contrast between our substrate here. So I'm going to be using some Monterey beach sand that I have left over from a million years ago, and we're just going to pour this all around the front of the aquarium, in front of the rocks, maybe a little bit above them, just to prevent some of the active substrate from bleeding into the front of the tank here. We didn't do a super good job of dividing the two, so this is one way to kind of do that. Once I think I'm happy with the layout, now we're going to go and grab our plants. So for today, you know, we are going to be recycling the dwarf hairgrass, and it turns out we're not using any of the dwarf baby tears. It all just got buried when I was playing around in the substrate, but we are going to be using a lot of the plants from the two experiment tanks here over on the other side of the room. So we just got done with our first experiment. We need to trim these tanks anyway so we can start up our next one, and in these tanks we have the same plants, but we have Rotala macrandra, we have Rotala indica, we also have a lot of these baby tears, not dwarf baby tears, the tall type. You can tell these are like almost a foot tall. And we also have some of this needle leaf Laguigia. So we're going to take a collection of all of these different plants, and we're going to start to plant in our new tank. Once the tank was planted, guys, we of course needed to add in the last main piece of equipment, which is of course our filtration. So like the other two tanks that we have next to this one, we're going to be using the Oase FiltoSmart Thermo 200. This is of course a canister filter that has a built-in heater, which I think is super important. That way we don't have an extra piece of equipment kind of taking up visual space in our scape. And the input and output are fairly minimalistic. They're not going to be as minimalist as say like lily pipes or anything like that, but you also don't have to clean these like you do lily pipes, so I kind of make the compromise there. We're back at the tank here, guys. It's now been, I want to say, 5 days since we set the tank up, and everything's looking pretty good. I added in some of the larger botanicals that Rachel sent me recently. I don't know if they're gonna stay here or what, but I thought it was kind of fun just to add some of those in. The spider wood is starting to do its thing. It's getting moldy, something that always happens when you add in fresh wood to your aquarium. No big deal. It's not a harm to anything, and we obviously don't have anything in this aquarium right now, so we don't have to worry about anything related to our water parameters of our new aquarium here. You can manually remove this mold if you want to with a toothbrush. That's easy enough to do, but I think we're just going to kind of let it do its thing for now. I didn't do the best job of securing this wood in place. I did use a little bit of super glue on some of the rocks to hold it in place, but it ended up shifting up a little bit, so that's why it's kind of a little off kiltered, but I actually don't hate it like this, and over time it will completely waterlog. It might actually even be waterlogged now, and I just don't know it yet, but overall I'm really liking the way it turned out. I absolutely packed the back of this aquarium with stems. There are some back here on the right side that you can't see from this angle here. It's kind of a little bare there, but there will be red stems that poke up here on the right side, so it'll look a little bit more balanced. I have a white background on this tank because I didn't paint the wall all the way down here, so that's why these extra clips are on here holding it on. I just need to get some tape so that way we can remove these and get a lot more of a clean look. I also need to fix my lighting situation. We're going to change out the fixture that we're using and the attachment. That way we can get away from these unsightly clips that I at one point had on all of these tanks, but we'll probably end up doing something similar to what we have over here on the Avatar tank. Since we're over here, I mean, we can take a look. We have, of course, the Avatar tank, we have the Forest tank, And then we have this new tank that very much does stand out. It's very different compared to these other two aquariums, and I'm happy about it. I'm looking forward to adding fish to this aquarium. I already have a little bit of an idea of what I want to add, but if you guys have some ideas, throw them down in the comments, and maybe I'll end up picking something that you guys pick. Our canister filter is running very, very well. I'm happy with the amount of flow that we get in this tank. We of course have our CO2 down here bubbling up through just an Aqua Rio diffuser, and it's going up and it's being passed along through the outflow of the filter there. So I think that's going to be an okay way to diffuse CO2 in this tank. We'll have to get another one of our drop checkers and put it over here and see exactly what kind of concentrations we're getting. But just based on looking at how much is coming out of here, I'd say we're doing pretty good for now. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it. That's the setup of the new tank down here. I don't really know what we're going to call this thing. If you have ideas, drop it down in the comments below. Help me out. I'm always really bad at naming tanks. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. We'll see you in the next one.